All right, we now welcome on the podcast, Dr. Fadde. Dr. Fadde, thanks for coming on the show today.
You bet, Patrick. Glad to be here.
So we've had you on the podcast. It's been several years since the last time you've been on, but what would you say? Like, I know your background, and I'm gonna, I just gave everyone your background during the intro, but if someone were to meet you on the street or talk to you or refer to you, how would they describe you? Like, what would you say your role in the game of baseball and softball is?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. First of all, I'm not a coach,
Okay.
and I played a little bit, but I couldn't fall out of a boat and hit water. But I kind of learned enough as a player to be able to help my own kids who played college baseball and softball, respectively. And then I've just done this deep dive into training pitch recognition, specifically with this video occlusion method. That was just something that I discovered when I was doing my dissertation research. I know you had an episode recently where you were looking at research, so I've done that type of academic research, and really discovered that method. And I'm not over promoting it. I'd say I'm probably the world's expert in video occlusion training. There are experts who've done the research in that, and this is a method that's been used for 4 decades, close to 50 years. This has been used, and all along, the scientists working with that, the sports scientists, have known that, hey, this could be a great training method, and nobody's ever really made it into that everyday training thing. So I had that piece, and then I spent 13 years working with coaches. I was a video coordinator at Purdue football. We were just talking about Purdue, and so that really has you working with coaches closely. So I really feel like I got that foot in the coaching, I got the foot in the science, and that's where it shows, is really being able to get this usable technology tool out to coaches and players in a way they can use it every day. Use it, not trying to blow it. It's not disruptive. We don't even want to be disruptive technology. We want to be integrated technology. Something where you don't even think about it.
What makes you the world's leading expert in video occlusion? Like, what specifically do you feel like you have on everybody else?
Well, the thing is, we've been doing it for 5 years now, working with players, so how to prepare the films. I've shared widely how people can prepare their own occlusion videos. It's pretty simple. You get as close as you can to a batter's view of a pitcher, and you get video of pitches, and then you cut it off at various points. Here's halfway, here's a third of the way, here's at the hand, and you have to guess whether it's a ball or a strike and what type of pitch it is, fastball, curveball. So that's a very simple method, but there's a lot of precision in how to train it, especially when you start putting it into an app. So you're trying to get inside the mechanism. If you're not getting inside the mechanism, you're not doing it enough. You're not doing it enough to have an effect. So once you get inside the mechanism, you want to be really precise. When do we advance somebody to that next stage? Where do we cut those things off? So that's where the precision comes in. It's a seemingly simple method, but it's got to be used really precisely.
Who are some of the people that are using it and have had success using it?
Well, we had a really kind of timely now. We had a really early implementation with the Diamondbacks. So this was back to 2017-18. We've got a couple of pro teams that we work with, but those are under NDA, non-disclosure type agreements. But this goes back more than 5 years, this project. And it was when they were just starting. They just had a new general manager come in, and they had really said, we're going to make controlling the strike zone part of our hitting culture. We're going to make that a priority. And so that affected certainly how they drafted. They started drafting more college hitters. And somebody like Pavin Smith, coming out of UVA, University of Virginia, and some players like that, and really making it an emphasis. Well, part of that was just, taking a chance on what was really a brand new company then, and really the first one to be using this occlusion method. And they made it compulsory all the way through full season and advanced A levels. 2017 and 18 for 2 solid years there. And it really became a part of what they did. Like we said, so that nobody even thought twice about it. Didn't feel like some, exotic technology. Players were supposed to do 2 or 3 drills, less than 5 minutes. They had team iPads, and then the players started picking it up and doing it on their phones. Like one player said, I did a focus group with them after their first year, and he said, "Yeah, one day I got all my GameSense in, waiting in line for my in and out." Mm. So that worked, and so it's really, that's not to say, oh, we caused something. What it is to say, here's an organization that's decided that that's an emphasis, and this is one of the things. This is one of the things we do to make that part of what we do.
So the Diamondbacks have been irrelevant for seems like decades. Dr. Fadde comes on and they start implementing GameSense, and bam, here they are in the World Series. I mean, that's a good testimonial right there.
That's a pretty big bam. That was 5 years ago. And like I say, I'm being really careful not to promote or suggest any kind of cause and effect.
Yeah.
I'm more saying, here's what it looks like when an organization makes that type of decision. So you're on talking to coaches all the time.
That's right.
If they say, hey, we've got to get stronger. If they say in the fall, hey, we got to get stronger, then it's okay. What are you doing in your hitting program to make that happen?
Right.
If they say, we got to control the strike zone more, we've got to make better swing decisions, it's like, okay, what are you implementing to make that part of your program? So that's really what it is. It's kind of those are things that go together. If a coach says, how do I make that part of my program? Here's a way to make it part of your program, along with other things. It has to do with who you recruit. It has to do with the culture that you build up. I mean, again, coming off the World Series and flipping to the other side of the ball, I was really impressed with the Rangers and how they could really take a team approach. You know how every once in a while, not that often, but every once in a while, you just sit down and really watch a TV baseball game. Well, I mean, like pitch by pitch, tracking everything that they do. And there was a late season game where they had to beat Luis Castillo, from the Reds, how great he is. And they had to beat him at Seattle just to stay in the playoff, not to drop off altogether. Here they were in the middle of this kind of free fall, but it was like, everything else that's happened, we've got to win this game. And they just had this unbelievable team approach. They still weren't getting his high stuff up here, which is, his four-seamer up here is rated the best pitch in baseball. But you could tell that they were saying, we are not chasing at the bottom of the zone. We're not chasing at the bottom of the zone. And that doesn't mean we're not going to chase the slider off, the change up or the sinker off. What it means is you're not going to chase right here. You're not going to chase. You're going to lay off, even though your eyes tell you that's good. And what we hear sometimes, we're going to see the ball up, right? We're going to see the ball up, which means you're going to force that. In this case, they're going to force him to throw his bottom of the zone breaking stuff strike to strike. We're not going to chase that. We're going to make him throw that. And that's what they did. I mean, they started working at it, couple of walks, take some tough pitches, put a couple of balls in play, not, home runs flying all over the place. They can certainly play that game as well. And they got to him and they beat him.
I think you bring up several really good points there. I think for one, what's impressive to me is, they had that buy-in from everybody. It seems like everybody on the roster just completely bought in, which is a lot easier said than done. I'm sure a lot of coaches can attest to that, especially at the professional level. It's different in college because you have more control over, the rosters and things like that versus at the professional level. But I think one of the things that makes that type of approach work against somebody like a Castillo is, hey, we're going to take everything low, and we're okay with the fact that, maybe he does sneak in a fastball at the lower part of the strike zone and we take it. Like that's because here's the thing. He's not going to be able to consistently do that time. And he's going to eventually mess up. And that's when we're going to capitalize. So I think that's where a lot of players, make that mistake is, when they have an approach like that, he throws that fastball on the bottom part of the zone for strike one, and then they abandon the approach, right? Versus sticking to it. I think that's what's really impressive. I know since your background, like you're not a former coach or played and things like that, you view the game from probably a different lens. What are some of the things that when you're watching games, and I know you've seen a lot of teams practice and things like that, like what are some of the things that you like versus don't like?
Well, I
Like
already
that
mentioned
makes sense to you versus doesn't make sense to you.
you mentioned the two strike approach too. So really what we're trying to stay away from is chasing.
Yeah.
So you talk about the shadow zone and everything like that, and it's like, okay, those are tough. Those are very challenging. If we can take away just that chase, and we're talking, 3, 4 more inches off of the plate, that you wouldn't even think about swinging on first pitch or with less than two strikes, and all of a sudden with two strikes, you're chasing that pitch. So as much as people like to say sometimes, people don't fear striking out anymore, gone out of the game. I don't think that's completely true. There's still fear of striking out looking. If you come back as a warrior, on your shield because you took a mighty hack, hey, you can still feel good about that. And it's tough. It's really challenging mentally. I mean, people want to talk about mental skills, psychological skills. How about the psychological skills to be able to stand in there and take one for the team? And hey, if you're wrong, you might get rung up, but you are reclaiming control of that. So yeah, it really does come down to a lot to that two strike approach. Now a lot of people seem to be like being really aggressive early in the count, right? Like even Garcia, we don't want to change who he is. He's this hyper aggressive, super remote, this is the guy he is. We don't want, but can we scale it back just enough? And you can see it happening. He'll be that aggressive animal, and then you get the two strikes and get a little bit more control. All of a sudden he doesn't chase that pitch. He gets one more and does some damage with it.
What are some drills? What are some drills that you like that you've seen over the years that maybe different teams have done to help with pitch recognition and swing decisions?
There was a drill early on. This is when I was working down with SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, and Dylan Lawson, who's then in the Yankees system and has really made pitch recognition a part of his whole approach. And he was down there, and actually Jeff Albert had his hands in this. We were all just talking at one point. We made this drill, and I know Jerry Weinstein has posted on this too, where you take on the screen like you've got another hitter. It doesn't need to be a pitcher, like standing on the other side of a screen in the batting tunnel. And we had a piece of PVC pipe like this. So we're taking this drill, and it's really just to work on the high fastball and the curveball out of that. Because a lot of pitchers, if you're of a certain vintage, you can call it Barry Zito drill, but some of us will get that and some not, right?
Yeah.
So here's the line like this, and the batter on the other side, like I say, whoever's acting as the pitcher, they don't need to be a real pitcher. You don't need to bring a pitcher in from, away from his practice. And if he throws that with a fastball release above the line, you lay off. The hitter's just got a tee, just got a bat, a ball on a tee. Goes above that line, you lay off. Fastball comes out below the line, you hit it. Curveball comes out over the line, you hit it. Curveball comes out below the line, you lay off. So you're just trying to put in mind how pitchers try and use that high fastball and that curveball off of each other. And so that's a strict pitch recognition drill.
Are you working with any schools right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've got all of our various clients that we work with as far as, using the app. I've talked with some guys up at University of Minnesota to try and do some of the drills that we do. And we've talked about doing some of these. And some of those aren't even pitch recognition drills. I know we've talked about doing the black seam drill, where you just, you mark up, and Mike Killian down in St. Louis, he does this. He's an instructor down there. And whether he's doing short toss or from the machine, regular balls from the machine, he'll just make take a magic marker and blacken the stitches. So if you get a black seam one, you lay off. It's not necessarily pitch recognition, but it gets your eyes really tracking that. And it's really more of an impulse control. So, sometimes those two mix, but they should work together. You've got to have the pitch recognition so that you kind of know what you're looking at, and then just the impulse control to lay off of that pitch.
I like that. I like that a lot. I think what ends up happening a lot of times is, especially when your players are taking batting practice, whether it be off a machine or a coach, is they're just in like just auto swing mode, right? And so doing drills like that can help break that up. Or, one of the things that sometimes that I like to do is I'll turn the music up really loud. I make sure the heater on, so again the noise is even louder. And then like I'll have the fastball machine on, and then I'll every once in a while I'll turn it off and then put a ball in. So it becomes now it's fastball changeup, and they don't know which one it is because the music's on. They can't hear the motor start to slow down, and it's really tough. I mean, it's really tough. But to your point, it A, they like it because it's fun, it's challenging, and B, from like a coaching standpoint, I like it because now they're not in auto swing mode, right? They don't necessarily know exactly the speed that's coming, and so they can't just gear up there the exact same thing time and time again. So that's one of the things that I like. Have you ever done that one before?
I used to do that when I was doing the football video coordinating.
Oh, really?
At Purdue. I remember one time we were going to play Notre Dame, and so the coach asked me to pipe in crowd noise. We're piping in crowd noise, but that wasn't really like that wasn't getting what you're getting at, where you just want to get that anxiety up, even though it was realistic. And this is a good training point, because realistic isn't always what makes for a good training setup. You see. Like you're talking about exaggerated things. So he said that's not getting what we want. I want guys, agitated. I mean, I want it to be. So I said, okay. So the next day we went out there and I set up a loop to play rock music backwards. And if you ever listen to loops of rock music backwards, or any kind of music backwards, it'll really make your skin crawl. I mean, it was.
I have not actually. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah. So, if you could get a loop, or just, you can probably go online and find a loop of that. So next time you're trying to enter some distraction and some anxiety and everything else into your players one, you got the music booming as always. What if you push a button and now it's playing back? It's a very disturbing thing.
I like that. I'm gonna have to steal that and try that out.
Yeah. So that one worked out really well.
So
hey,
what
I'm sorry. Is it possible to just show a short clip so people have an idea what this occlusion thing is?
Yeah. Let me, yeah, you're good to share now.
Okay. Sometimes we get carried away with show and tell, and we forget that, it really should be tell and show, right? So that's what that's kind of what our app looks like. So you got some video, and it's shot from a batter's point of view. Like if you noticed at a lot of the major league ballparks now, the Phillies and the Orioles and others, they've got those cameras that are back behind both of the batter, like they're shooting through the empty batter's box during the game, and they're just getting this view. So we like to include a little bit of the catcher in there so that you've got a kind of sense of what it is. And then I'll just kind of let this loop in play. So this is a right on right. So here's a changeup, so whoever is using it guesses fastball strike. So I'm looking at, fastball strike. No. So it's telling me, no, it's slider ball. See, so it's seeing this, we call it the stimulus pitch. This is what you're reacting to. And then you get it wrong. And when you get the pitch wrong, your mind is like really open to that moment, learning something. That's a real learning moment, because your mind is like a dog. It doesn't like to be punished, doesn't like to be wrong. So we'll actually hear players say, like when they get this wrong the first time, you'll actually hear them say, huh? When it tells them they're wrong. And then they see the replay and they go, oh. And as you watch this repeat, you really start to see, oh yeah, I can really tell out of the hand that that's going to twist off the plate. This is your absolute classic right on right chase slider, right? There's a 1-2 count down here in the corner. So you kind of don't put the count like right in people's face, but it's right down there to check. Okay, that's a 1-2 pitch, absolutely classic. And so how the learning's supposed to happen. A lot of reps like what we were looking at there, and instant feedback, and then progressive difficulty. So when you get pretty good at recognizing that slider, we were seeing about a third of the pitch. That's kind of the basic level. And there's science that shows that 150 milliseconds, that 1/3 of the pitch is an important decision time. You start getting good at that, then you get less of the pitch. You get less and less and less. and you're still making that decision. And so while we say that video occlusion is the technology that we're using, that's just the pitch cut off, which you can see is a lot different than like VR, where you've got kind of a 3D computer generated animation of that. It's real video. So even with thousands really of youth to pro hitters, we've never had anybody say, "Oh, it's confusing." They just go, "Oh, that's just video." Yeah, it is just video, but it's an angle you don't usually see. And this cutting it off and making you guess, now engages your brain. And, take advantage of those little moments, of those little, that's the sound of learning.
Yeah, I mean, from a video standpoint, it's from a really good angle, and I mean, you can't get much more realistic from a video standpoint. I mean, I don't even know, quite honestly, I don't even think even if you had an umpire cam, I don't think that would be as realistic per se, because the height of the hitter could be a little bit different, and I just think it'd be a little bit I don't think that would work. So I think that in the video standpoint is really good on that. What about players? Like, should they, when they're using that and they're using some sort of video occlusion, should they be standing up in their stance? Should they be like, like, what's the best way that you've seen players go about trying to make it as realistic as possible, so it translates to helping them make better swing decisions in the game?
Well, like one of the things they do at Iowa is if we're two offensive players, okay, so you've got your turn in the cage, and they'll have up on a big screen behind you, like the kind of screen you'd use with your hit tracks or something. But a lot of facilities have a pretty good sized monitor, computer video monitor, like on the side. And so you're watching the pitches, and I'm holding the iPad or the iPhone with the app on it. And so your job is to hit fastball strikes. So if you swung and you're just hitting off a tee, so if you're that one we were just watching, that's our pitcher Evan on the app. So you watch that. If you swung at it, I enter I enter your guess on that, because you were only supposed to swing at fastball strikes, and then you see, okay, that was wrong, and you get the replay from it and everything like that. So you're standing and swinging. Now the ball's, it's not a simulation. The ball's not coming exactly to where that is, but you're making your swing decision based on what you see there.
So they're hitting, they can see the monitor from the pitcher's viewpoint where they're straight on. So they're hitting kind of right at the monitor off the tee. Right. Like inside of a cage. Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Yep. How many people do that normally? Have you noticed a lot of college teams or pro teams do that?
Well, I know that they've done it for years at Iowa. So they're the only ones who've ever sent me video of it. I think other people do it. I know that down at Sanjak, they do that there too with their hitters, where they do a lot of standing in and hitting right off of the right off for the timing of it. Like I say, it's not a simulation, you would say, from that. And let me see, I could try and find the thing if you've got a little bit of patience here. Here, I'll do one of these again, if I can do a share with you here. So this is a guy hitting off of the machine.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this is what we're calling his video cued tee work. This is Matt Lawson. So he's with
the Rangers actually now.
State. Now he's with the Rangers. See, so he saw that break out of his hand. That's pretty easy one, big breaking ball. Okay, no swing on that one. And I like partly because the coach can't like cue him up too much. Okay, crushed that one pretty good. He still sees the replay on it. Yeah, fastball right there. And so he's just instructed to hit fastball strikes. Okay, now he didn't get that one too good. Look, I like the coaching on this. But basically the next pitch is coming, like the game. Look at this take. Look at this take. This guy's got a cutter. That was a back foot cutter, right?
I would have swung at that one.
Yep. And then he crushes the next one.
Good right there.
So that's a pretty good example of hitting that off of hitting that off of the wall. And if you notice, he's not like, because we have that problem. A lot of coaches don't like hitting off the tee because they don't like, Darren Everson calls it the heavy front shoulder. You can stare down at well, now you've changed your entire mechanics. You don't swing like this. You swing like this, right? Head chin moving. Like, again, I'm not the hitting coach. I'm not a hitting, but I got obsessed at some point with people hitting off of the tee. And like, you had Dr. Bailey on a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about visualizing pitches. Even if somebody's visualizing the pitcher, and if you're using the app a lot, it's really easy to visualize a pitcher and a pitch coming in. Don't let yourself go to the tee until your eyes come down there, until your swing takes your eyes to that point. And so that's what I like most about that, was you really see him hitting in that rhythm, not that kind of heavy tee, hitting it like a golf tee shot. And then, getting the rhythm of the pitcher and kind of dance with the pitcher, all that kind of business.
Is that your favorite way that you've seen coaches use or teams use the app?
Absolutely. What I really like, my very favorite way, is when they, this is a hard sell for the kids or whatever, but basically they've given them GameSense homework. And so they'll say, watch this guy. Okay. And then the coach can track that. So you're coming in there, and I say, Patrick, you did some of those drills against that. What's that pitcher? Jason is that pitcher. Okay. And now we've got him up on the screen. So it's the same guy you were doing the homework on, and now you got him up on the screen there, and you can take some rips off of him. And the players always like that a lot. The one thing, sometimes facilities will use that as like a station, and that's great. But what you really like is where they can track every player, what they do against that. And so if you were working with a team or guys coming into your facility, you can assign that player. So you would like assign, if your head guy's coming in, you would assign Jason. I already say we're gonna have cutter week, and the pitchers in there that feature a cutter, and then you've got some other drills, and you can design your whole thing around that, and you can follow what they do. Like this time of year, I really like for college coaches to do what we call a boot camp, where that's where you take 2 or 3 weeks, and you've got your guy, and right now is the time to do it, where you've got your guys doing 10 minutes a day of GameSense, but you're assigning that so that they're all doing the same pitchers. And then when it comes to off season, you finish your fall work, you can go back through that, and you can really get a breakdown, because now you've got 300, 400, 500 pitches, and we're able to see, okay, Jones, he's, we can see on this that he is identifying sliders really well. Like he'll identify, and we had a guy like this. This was one of the players at Mizzou who had been a really big user of it. And, here is, okay, this Jones, he's reading it. Even when we cut it off after only like 6 feet, he's reading sliders really well. But you know what? He still swings at the ones out of the zone. In other words, he calls it a strike when it's a ball in the app. And the coaches say that's exactly what this guy does. And that particular player we were talking about, this was during the fall, and he was their best hitter. He was a very productive hitter coming back, COVID, 5th year senior, all that. And it was like, where can this guy improve? But he's one of those guys that carried like a 220, 380, 540 slash line. It's like, well, we can do better than 220. And but because of the way they'd broken that down, they were able to say, look, your slider problem that both you and I know about, right? Your chasing sliders problem isn't a pitch recognition problem. It's a dog and squirrel problem. You got to just not chase that thing. So then he could go into it, something focused, work on that. Take that, every couple of at-bats, you flip a count, you go to a 2-1 instead of a 1-2 because you didn't chase that. You get that extra pitch in the 2-strike. And, he did up that production then in the following season. So that's what we like to see, is that you can actually do a lot of kind of diagnosis based off of people doing concentrated work in the app. They're just playing the app as far as they know. Meanwhile, you're getting all these behind the scenes analytics on it.
Yeah, have you guys had any data on schools, pro teams, or organizations, college teams, whatever, before and afters in terms of started using the app and being able to see more walks, less strikeouts? Like, have you guys seen any of that?
Yeah, we have. Now with the it's kind of hard to say because there's so many things that can go
Sure.
into it. So I'm really reluctant to put something out there and it sounds like, oh, here's another guy claiming that his whatever cause his technique or his great coaching or something, caused this
Right.
person's success. And that's seldom the case on it. But like if we go back to the Diamondbacks, because this is, pre 5 year cutoff, but they did that for 2 years and they increased. I don't know if you use the metric of walk to strikeout ratio. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Walk to strikeout ratio. They used to talk about strikeout to walk, but walk to strikeout ratio. So for an individual hitter, 500, right? One walk, they used to call it 2-to-1 strikeout ratio, but a walk to strikeout, sometimes called good eye, of 500, that's really good. That's really anything above 500 is pretty much elite. And if you get to even to 1,000, it's almost like a slugging percentage like that. 400 is about average, so 500 is really good, 400 is average, 300 is low. I mean, the person either needs to be getting more walks, more strikeouts, or whatever. But and so in the 2 year period of doing that, their teams were 100 points higher. Now, it's hard to say it's the exact same guys because it's different guys using it one year than the next year. So I'm not saying they improved that, but they were 100 points higher. And if you compared it to the other teams in the league, they didn't. Actually, I can kind of show that up here too, if you have the patience for that.
My patient man, of course I can.
Okay. So I'll do we got to do the Zoom screen share anything. It's old prof thing anyway, right?
Right.
So, this is from the study that was done with that. Here, I'll bounce it up one. So we looked at 2017 and 18, they'd used it, and in 2019 they didn't. So you can see, and again, we're talking about different groups of people and they're moving on to different levels, but it all kind of washes out. So batting average about the same, slugging percentage about the same, down a little. On base, that was higher. Walk rate, that was higher. Walk rate for pros about 8% is about average. So you were right, tick under 8% to a tick under 10%. That's pretty substantial. But this is where we really want to look. So if we have one metric that we really hang our hat on and say, this is where, as a team or as an individual for that, we use this walk to strikeout ratio. So from 341, which would be kind of, below average, not terrible, but not, to 437, which is great. So that's almost 100 points higher in that time frame. Now, that's not a controlled research study, and being an academic, that's not something that would be put out for peer review, academic publication, or anything like that. That's something that was done for the group by an outside person, and just using available data, just public data on batting averages and the such. And again, not claiming any causality. But what you are looking at is saying, okay, here's a tool that goes with working on plate discipline, swing decision type metrics. Here's some evidence of good things happening in those areas. And that's pretty strong because that's with 100 guys in an organization.
Yeah, and that's also over the course of a 100+ game season too. It's not like it's a 30-game season where it's, there's a lot of different things that can go into, whether numbers are better or worse from year to year. So I definitely, I mean, I think it's great overall. I think one of the things that I really like about it is, so many players and everybody these days, people in general, it's their phones, right? So they want to be on their phones. They're always on their phones. And so sometimes you just got to meet people where they're at too. And so it's pretty cool that, hey, they could be on a bus ride somewhere and they're still like, getting better and being able to work on their pitch recognition and things like that. And just think about, hey, if a pitch shape starts in this spot, it's going to end up in this spot, and just kind of gets their mind going in the right direction when it comes to what pitches that they're consistently looking for. So that's another reason why I think it's a really good tool. But overall, I'm a big fan.
Well, and I like what you say there about, what's it look like coming out of the hand and what it look like at the plate. And that's really what we're after. I mean, to some extent, just like going to the weight room, you have them do squats, you have them do bench, you have them do whatever you do. That's not necessarily what they do in the game. You don't have an offensive lineman go out there and press a linebacker, but you have to have them do something. So when we have them recognize the type of pitch, guess ball or strike, what it's really about is really tuning your eyes to what do you see out of hand? What's it mean at the plate? Out of hand at the plate, out of hand at the plate. So you don't even think about it. You just visualize it. Like Tommy Everidge, who's the A's major league hitting coach. He was working with his son in the minor leagues, and he said what he liked about it was that it forced hitters to create the shape of the pitch in their own head. Just what you said, out of hand at the plate. And so that's an instant picture, dot, 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 connect the dots, out of hand at the plate. And you see that, and you've got that pattern, and then you swing to that spot. So there's a big question about whether you can do that, on the phone, part task, or whether you need to do it whole task. And one of the things, this was some feedback that I got from somebody more working with youth ones, that they really wanted to have their hitters have an aggressive approach. He was working with 13, 14-year-old hitters, and he didn't want them trying to be selective. He wanted them being really aggressive. First, because it's more fun.
Sure.
Get out there and whack the heck out of the ball. Anything you can reach, take a shot at. But knowing that somewhere along the line, that's going to quit working for them as well. They're going to have this other folded in, but he didn't want it up front. And so he said at first he was reluctant with that, but like you said, he kind of liked the idea, and he started having them do that. And so they don't actually conflict with it. So you don't have to tell somebody, hey, work on recognizing. They just play the game. Mm-hmm. They just play the game. And then all of a sudden, when they start running into pitchers who can spin the ball, who can throw a strike to ball chaser, all of a sudden they kind of got it there when they need it.
I mean, whoever that is, he's 100% right. Especially, you don't want really young kids. I mean, you want them being aggressive because, one, they can only think about so many things at one time. And so I think, you start giving them, hey, you should take if it's here, swing if it's there. I mean, they can't do all that. So let's be aggressive. I think Kyle Wagner does a great job.
Yeah, this is actually exactly who I was talking to. His green light hitting.
Okay.
Yeah, Kyle Wagner is green light hitting. And we had a nice conversation. He was kind of, well, I'm not sure I would want to get that in there. And so other people say, well, you can't just work on that on an app. You got to be swinging at the same time, and I don't think it's so. It's like you almost want it to be just a separate thing. You're just doing this. It's like you were increasing your strength. Well, and that's not necessarily going to help you on Saturday.
Right.
Somewhere down the line, that's going to pay off.
Well, here's the thing about hitting and hitting development is there's a lot of anecdotal things when it comes to helping hitters. And so, yeah, maybe somebody that's definitely a fair argument. Like, it's on an app, you're not swinging or anything like that. But here's the thing. If the hitter thinks it helps them and they go up to the plate thinking that, they're now more confident, and I mean, who can argue that it doesn't work? Right. I mean, so I think that you have to be careful with saying like, they have to be swinging a bat or, things like that. Whereas like, if the hitter believes that it's helping them, then it's helping them. And so I know that's frustrating at times because it is a little bit anecdotal, but it's just the truth. And so, and I just think you want to, earlier you talked about how, you want like organizations to be bought in and emphasizing, hey, this is what we believe in. And so I think that's a part of it too, where it's, if they're practicing it, even if it's not in the most realistic setting, if they're constantly, thinking about, hey, swinging at the right pitches, taking bad ones, things like that, that's going to carry over as well to when they do pick up that bat of being more selective and, knowing what to look for and pitch shapes and things like that as well. So I understand what, those people are saying, but I just think that hitting just a different beast. It really is. And so I just think there's more than one way to help hitters, even if they don't even have a bat in their hand. So
Well, and so, what we're really trying to be able to say to coaches is what we know from our experience with this and from the, like I say, 50 years of research on this is when hitters do this type of work properly and regularly, it's going to have a positive effect. It's going to help some more than others. For some people, that was the missing piece. And if you find one of those people it was the missing piece for, all of a sudden, bam, they're flying. Other people, it's just an incremental, improvement on. But what we've kind of added most recently to that is this journey thing. And I think we've talked about that before, where it's a forced type of thing. Before it was like, hey, you can sign up, you get 10 free drills, use them however you want. Now you go, you sign up, and it's completely free, no credit card or anything. But you get a 10 drill journey. It's a forced thing. It's a locked step. You get this little intro one, you get this picture, if you're a youth, you've got certain ones you do. If you're high school, you have certain ones you do. If you're college pro, you have certain ones that you do. And at the end of that, you can walk away if you want and you're a better hitter.
mm-hmm.
Or, obviously we hope that you'll subscribe then and really make it part of your everyday. But that's a big difference in that. So we're able to say to that coach or that parent, hey, you don't have to like babysit the thing. Properly, being done properly is taken care of in that. All you've got to do is take care of the regularly. So you're getting them in there. If you make sure people are doing your work and you pop up the app and check it that quickly, you take care of the regularly, the app is taking care of the properly, and you're going to have a positive effect from it.
Good stuff. Dr. Fadde, appreciate you coming on. Where can somebody learn more? Where should they go?
Well, they can go to GameSenseSports.com and be able to go into that and just sign up, give it a try. You don't really need to know. It'll kind of explain it all to you. There's a coach in the box. You'll have to recognize him. It's just the old graybeard Dr. Fadde that'll lead them right through the drills. It just says, hey, you're doing this one. And it's like weightlifting. You don't need to understand everything about it. You just have to trust the process.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. People have been doing this occlusion method for a long time, but this is where we're really making it this controlled process, like a great weight room workout. There's a difference between going down and throwing some weights and really having a great program to follow, especially when you get it done enough that we can say, okay, Patrick, here's your baseline. Now let's work on this or this or this. That's where a coach really starts to add their value.
Gotcha. Awesome. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
Sure, Patrick. Appreciate it.